It is time to get your life vest on. Lots of big emotions, a tidal wave of emotions coming to humanity during this next week from October 23rd to the 29th, 2025. Correlated with a first quarter moon. Let's say go. Let's pause that. Get rid of these. Here's your overview. We're going to talk off this playbook. On the top is the influence. We want to try and get you an accurate, detailed assessment of what to expect in terms of feelings and emotions, thoughts, the inner world from the stellar influence, and then what to do about it. Because just because you're mad doesn't mean you scream at people and slam doors, right? So want to do what's technically advised. And we'll go here. And a big shout out to CJ Star Monkey 73. You got the best comment award for the Ides of October. Yes, the Ides. And it goes well with this next week. The tsunami or the tidal wave. Either way. Can't wait to show you the stars. Starting big picture. Going down to details day by day. We're in the eclipse cycle, Virgo, just after a new moon in Libra. So we're in the first quarter moon. Now we're in between these vertical lines. And we see at the end of our week, Mercury's going to go into Sagittarius. And then you're going to have these, each one of these green lines is a trine. And on the 29th, you see a lot happening there, including a lot of trines making a grand water trine. And you have an opposition that goes exact on the 29th, which makes a kite out of that, including a mini grand trine we'll talk about. I'll explain all that. Here's the energy chart. It's all water, folks. This bottom one's a more subtle. This is the light blue line. This is the subtle signature in the background. It is water. It's heavy. A lot of planets in water signs. And then this is separately, this is the grand water trine. And you can see that it climaxes. It's just really tight on that 29th towards the end of our CIRF week. All right, Thursday the 23rd, we start with the biggest influence, which is going to be the sun. Sun has just entered into Scorpio, so we are now at 7 water signs because the moon on Thursday hasn't quite left Scorpio yet. But 7, that's some water dominance that we haven't seen in quite a while. So lots of water, lots of fixed water, which makes sense because everything is in Scorpio. Scorpio is the fixed water. All right, now we take a kind of zoom back after we got the sun and sun's placement, and then we got the moon and its phase. It's in the waxing crescent stage just post new moon. So it's growing in illumination. So it's got that kind of emotional expansiveness to it. We're heading into a first quarter moon this week. And that's kind of like the stepping on the accelerator in terms of motivation, willpower, just ready to get things going. And but zoom out now and we see this grand water trine. It's not just a single grand water trine. I mean, lots of planets, especially with the moon progressing through this mess over here in Scorpio. Mercury and Mars together in Scorpio on one point. You've got Saturn and Neptune in Pisces at the other point, and then just Jupiter. Jupiter's expansive and it cares. It wants to care and protect. So it's going to overcare. And it's expansive, right? So Saturn is the constriction and challenger. So those two are not commensurate. There's a push-pull in this grand water trine, sort of making it more of a stormy type of feeling, even though we have lots of easy energy. It's all in the water signs, folks. Intense emotional depth, intense intuitive understanding, or an urge to get the intuitive understanding, or maybe very vivid intuitive senses, expansive nurturing instincts, and strong sense of family and interconnectivity, interpersonal work, meaningful relationships is part of water. And we're feeling probably deep unconditional love, lots of devotion interpersonally, profound empathy, maybe easier to feel guilt tripped by your own mind. Profound empathy and understanding, emotional healing is the opportunity, and it's in dire need of your life jacket, so you don't drop too far into these emotions and get lost in it. On Friday, this is where the kind of the challenging aspect. Sun, it's worth our time because especially with Sun in Scorpio and then its ruler Pluto has a square. So energetically, the furthest away from home and contending to the planets within that domain, the number one planet, Sun. Sun square Pluto, lots of power, control, maybe a big emphasis on it, on we need to transform, in a powerful way. Maybe lots of fear as part of this emotional incongruity. This is the expansive Jupiter. This is on the grand trine. Expansive Jupiter against or with, rolling with, because of the trine, the constricted and disciplined Saturn. And so, this Sun square Pluto really puts a lot of pressure on the need to transform in a powerful way. So we might see power struggles, even though we have normally a grand water trine of this nature is going to, think about it on this point, Mercury and Mars on one of the points together makes thoughts and action of the same. So if you think it's a high chance of just doing it because both of those are together. But now we have this square, and the square adds contention to, interpersonal dynamics. So we all kind of feel one and cohesive on the one hand, and easy to feel that. But on the other hand, it's this Sun square Pluto that puts doubt in your mind, intense, all-consuming passions and desires, deep, transformative, potentially emotional upheaval or pain. So a lot of emotions with the grand water trine, but then the square here kind of puts it all into question. The grand water trine, if you want to think about it, fills the bathtub or fills the lake with emotion. And with that emotion, it breeds doubt interpersonally, suspectfulness, maybe some vindictiveness is a common trait with on the shadow side of Scorpio, but a lot of passions. People feel passionate and willing to stand the line. We'll also have magnetic attraction, irresistible allure, but intense power struggles. And through those power struggles, I believe we'll experience transformations collectively. Mercury trine Saturn is exact. Mercury is in Scorpio, getting further away from Mars, and makes its exact trine over to Saturn. Still alive with the grand water trine, just getting more exact, more detail, more tighter orbs as we go along here. So deep, focused communication style with Mercury and Saturn in a trine, profound understanding of motivation in others. So it really brings a rational flair to intuitiveness and connectedness at a deeper level. Ability to transform ideas into tangible, practical solutions with this trine. Feeling states is still deep, unwavering focus and concentration, high amounts of passion, intense curiosity, and a thirst for what's underneath everything, a thirst for knowledge, like an experiential knowledge, not just a logical, rational view, like an air view. This is a water view, a water mind. And it wants to know, it wants to feel the knowledge underneath it. And it'll only know from experience. Sunday, the 26th, we have now the moon is getting closer to first quarter moon, but is now in Capricorn. So the urge to climb and achieve are really correlated quite well with the phase of the moon. So climbing, expanding, what can I do? It's feeling more open with all the water coming around us. And now we're getting tighter orbs. So 24 and 28 degrees in Scorpio, 24 degrees in Jupiter and Cancer, and 26 degrees, 29 degrees with the Pisces players. So tighter orb. This is the tidal wave of emotion. It's going to last the entire week. It crests, I think, towards the end, as I depicted with our sideways profile graph. This is where it really gets tight. I mean, you've got Mercury and Neptune pretty much exact that day. You got Mars and Saturn going exact and really tight with Jupiter. So I'd say this is the crest of the tidal wave. It crests. And then Wednesday, still there. We're going to lose Mercury in this grand water trine as he goes into Sagittarius. And so mental, the mind and thoughts, even though the emotions are still strong here, the mind now is looking beyond, looking out into the horizon, expansive and adventurous mindsets, and seeking new experiences and knowledge, philosophical mind, curious approach to learning, engaged storyteller, able to captivate audiences with wit and humor. But still, the emotions are rather strong. A lot of water signs still, less dominant than it used to be, so the wave is sort of cresting off. You have the moon, the emotional and feeling states of the moon create or put a lot of emotional emphasis on Pluto, which is transforming humanity as we speak, and power and control. But the only thing I didn't mention before was this kite formation. So you have the opposition, Pluto and Jupiter. You have the mini grand trine with the players in Scorpio, the players in Pisces, sextiles between them, and the grand water trine. So all that together makes the kite. Whoops. All right, now we get into the I-Ching, and we toss these coins, a revealed hexagram 10 with change line 3. And that speaks to the delicate act of walking a fine line where balance, awareness, and intention are crucial to avoid missteps. With changing line 3, the energy shifts to highlight the emotional tension of navigating a precarious situation, often under the watchful eyes of others. This line evokes feelings of vulnerability and apprehension. Thoughts of caution and the need for careful self-control dominate. You just imagine being in all those emotions, big, intense emotions. That will confuse the mind, as it normally does. It consumes it and confuses it. Humans interpret this dynamic as a call to harmonize their inner strength with outward grace, trusting that attentiveness and humility lead to a safe passage. But basically, it's feeling like we have to tread carefully because of all this tidal wave of emotion, and everything we talked about, right? So let's summarize. We have Sun in Scorpio, biggest energy out there. Main sky events, well, the waxing crescent moon to a first quarter moon. We have the grand water trine, the Sun square Pluto, and Mercury at the end enters into Sagittarius. Put all of it together, including the late kite formation and the massive water signature, we get treading carefully. This week, humanity is swept up in waves of deep emotion as a grand water trine takes center stage, synergized by a Scorpio sun and a waxing first quarter moon. Expansive energy merges with a mini grand trine at the bottom of that grand trine, forming a brief but potent kite formation that amplifies emotional intensity and intuitive connection, fostering a profound sense of unity in the collective. However, the Sun's square to Pluto stirs a powerful urge to control amidst this heightened vulnerability. What do people do when they feel out of control? They tend to clamp down and start controlling everything, including other people. So you might see that an uptick, especially at the beginning of the week when Sun square Pluto is very strong. As I-Ching 10 line 3 suggests, this week brings increased sensitivity and awareness, pairing with tension and uncertainty, creating a dynamic mix of growth and challenge. All right, there's the influence. Big water, big tidal wave. Now time to go to the solution. We're going to look at the I-Ching, the rave that unlocks, and then put it all together. And here we go. Transition to the solution by putting the change line in, and then we get 1, creative power. Step into your role as a source of inspiration and action. You are the creator. That hexagram 1 suggests embrace your creative potential with confidence and determination. Channel your energy into meaningful endeavors. Act decisively, but ensure your actions are guided by clarity, integrity, and strong sense of purpose. Basically, don't stay drowning in water emotion or deep emotional waters. Keep moving and remember to be productive. Remember that you are the creator of your inner experience. And we'll talk more about that. Now we'll put in the conversion. And I think based on the tread carefully theme that the I-Ching proposes, I think that's coming from the Sun square Pluto. So being the sun is the biggest dominant energy in the sky, we want to plot that on the chart this week, but at the time that Pluto goes exact, Pluto square Sun goes exact, and that happens at Rave Mandala Gate 50. And we're going to have Sidereal Virgo unlocked. So let's talk about 50. Now, just so you know, we're going to see this 50 quite a bit. We saw it last week with, I think, a different line. This week is line 6, but just to review, 50 is the value of historical continuity whose traditional values serve and enrich the present and the future. With Pluto in Aquarius, remember, we're getting an overhaul, a death and rebirth of revolutionary ideas. And that means that traditions in Aquarius tend to just fall away. Aquarius sort of wants new. It doesn't want to follow just the same old script. It wants something new. But this line says that, hey, we don't want to just get rid of all the values. We want to keep what works for us. And so in line 6, we have leadership. And it says this. So the increment is with Venus, the gift in a position of power to maintain harmony even in severity. The strength to maintain one's values with vigor and continue to have harmonic relationships with others. So what this is saying is, because it's ruled by Venus, one of the archetypes of that is values. Well, we're basically wanting to keep our values in strongly maintaining our sense of value, and as a way to keep and make more harmony in relationships. Now, on the downside, it's also keeping strong values, but now we're at the expense of harmonic relationships. So, an inherent moodiness that in a position of power many at times alienate or offend and affect overall efficiency. The strength to maintain one's values, but at the expense of harmonic relationships. So when it comes to, do I keep my values, or do I keep harmony with the people? And if we're in this decrement, it's going to tell you, at least for this week, this gate is going to tell you to pay attention to your values. And we'll get into more of what this means. But the goal of the line is to embody a type of influence that upholds tradition while creating genuine connection, demonstrating that true power comes not from rigid control, but from maintaining values in a way that draws others closer rather than pushing them away. So it's going into more detail here. I have the pictures here of Venus, and I have the rulers, Venus and the moon. But the increment ruled by Venus should be invoked when leadership requires maintaining both authority and connection. Like, when doesn't that happen? When do you have leadership that doesn't have a sense of authority and connection required? But Venus energy allows for firm boundaries without creating emotional distance. It allows you to have both the values with vigor, standing by your values, and using that to harmonize the relationships. But the downside, the decrement ruled by moon, should be invoked when values must be protected even at the social cost. The moon's changeable and emotional nature explains the moodiness described in the decrement. And when it comes to, you can't have both, you can't have harmony and your values, then it's saying that you need to stick with your values. Okay? So some practical suggestions on how to balance this paradoxical line is practice emotional self-awareness. That's key, right? Because you're going to be making leadership decisions and influential decisions, and you need to know where you are, the increment or decrement, in knowing what to prioritize. But notice that in both the increment and decrement, values are always stood by. So that's what you can take to take and hold close to your heart, is your values are very important. And now, we're going to use them to harmonize, or am I just going to protect the values? It's really the only two questions. Other things you can do is develop clear, transparent communication about your values so that they're out on the table and you're not afraid of them and everyone knows. You can seek feedback about how your influence style or leadership style impacts others. And this is really important this week because it activates when the Sun and Pluto enter their exact square. So the maximum conflict or maximum power struggle influence is going to invoke this transit, this rave reading. So brings an intense transformative energy to this gate and line combination. During this transit, leaders will face tests between maintaining harmony and protecting values, despite relational costs. Collectively, we may witness leaders who either rise to exemplary balance, showing how to uphold traditions while fostering connection, or who succumb to power struggles and emotional reactivity that damages community cohesion. This transit particularly challenges us to transform how we view authority itself. Can leadership both be firm and kind? can traditions be preserved without becoming rigid? All right, enough of that. But notice too how this transit goes back to the I-Ching for the solution. Let me show you. This, we talked about its influence, strongly value-based, and we have creative power. And so being the creator of your inner experience, being the authority of your life. And then we have Virgo, pay attention, meticulous, careful, analytical. And we have a waxing crescent, first quarter moon, which means expansive, ready to go do, motivate, higher chance of being motivated. So put it all together. What we get is step into your individual personal power this week. See yourself as the creator of your individual experience. Number 2, review your personal values often. Steer your creative power towards them. What things do you stand by? What lines in the sand do you have? What hills would you die on? What do you want to make your life about? Have a list of those things. Okay? And I would give you an examples, but I don't want to tell you what you should believe for your values. These aren't coerced. These aren't justified. They're just important to you. These things are important to you, and you're willing to, really stand by them and live your life by those ideals and values. So also use your values in all your interpersonal dealings, because remember, this grand water trine and the water signature the way it is, there's a heavy amount of, or heavy emphasis on social, whether it's in family, social environment, just personal time, or professional career kind of thing, or networking. Doesn't matter. There's going to be a lot of interpersonal work. Your values should remain intact despite the level of harmony or disharmony. Another foot stomper, do not dim your light, i.e. don't sacrifice your values to generate harmony if there is disharmony. If there is disharmony, there's a chance that articulating your values or shining or influencing your values will actually bring harmony. If you don't have that instinct, then just stick by your values. That's the whole point. So you can't stick by something if you don't even know what it is. So identify your values this week before you get started. And then finally, with Virgo, the sidereal Virgo, we need to act carefully, diligently, mindfully, precisely. As far as social engagement, it's pretty much very social. I mean, the rave is very social. Creative power, yang, is very social. Waxing crescent moon is social. Virgo can be, obviously, social, but normally is a little trends a little more to the introverted side. But if you put all of them together, that's a big suggestion of more social emphasis this week. But it doesn't mean you have to go out and be the social butterfly. But if you do, notice how the grand water trine affects you or not. I would like to know, how does that energy affect you personally? Does it make you more social? Does it scare you more? Knowing, feeling more intuitive about what people are intending or meaning, or what they're going to feel. So, all right, everybody, this is my presentation. How did we do today? What questions do you have? What suggestions do you have for me? If you want this playbook, you can go download it for free over on Telegram. Link, show notes, are down below. Click the link, go to Telegram, subscribe. You don't even have to subscribe. You can just take this picture for you and use it for the week. All right, there you go. There's the energy and the suggested behaviors for October 23rd to October 29th, 2025. This has been CIRF number 475, and it's been a pleasure serving you today. Enjoy, everybody. Namaste.